Shalom, everybody. It's our favorite time of the week. It's Torah time. My name is Morah, Dena, and I'm so happy to greet all of you today. Shalom to all my friends out there. Shalom to shalom. Shalom to bracha tova. Shalom to everyone who is enjoying, loving, and living Torah. Happy birthday to all of our friends who celebrated a birthday this week. Shalom, everyone. Well, can you guess? Oh, yes. Can you guess? Oh, yes. How do you like my new hat? How do you like my new glasses? They are brand new, and they have something to do with this week's Parsha. Can you guess? Can anyone out there guess? Why, oh, why am I wearing this beautiful wizard hat and these beautiful, beautiful wizard glasses? Can any of you guess out there? Think very carefully, and let's begin Torah time. Give me 5, everybody. Give me 5. And this week it's very, very exciting because we are beginning book number 2. We said shalom to all of our friends last week, to Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Yosef, and all of our amazing, amazing friends and Torah giants that we learned about in the book of Bereshis. And now we are ready to begin book number 2. Give me 5. And remember, raise your hand when we say book number 2, Shemos. Let's do it. The books of the Torah. The books of the Torah. There are 5. There are 5. Give me 5. Bereshis, raise your hand for Shemos. Vayikra. Bereshis, Shemos. Vayikra. Bamidbar Devarim. Bamidbar Devarim. Those 5 books. Give me 5. Give me 5. Give me 5. And what's this week's Parsha? The Parsha of the week is Shemos. And by the way, I love Torah. I love every single Parsha of the Torah. But Shemos happens to be my favorite. I probably say that every week. But it's truly my favorite Parsha. And I'm sure you can guess why. I don't know if you can. Raise your hand if you can. I don't know. Let's find out. Shemos. Shemos. The Parsha of the week is Shemos. The Parsha of the week is Shemos. The Parsha of the week is Shemos. Let's find out what's happening in Parsha Shemos. Remember, Yosef is gone. Yaakov is gone. Yosef was buried deep into the river. And the river rose, and people bowed to the river. He asked his sons before he was gone to make sure to take him out of Mitzrayim. Don't leave him in Mitzrayim. Just like Yaakov was buried in the Ma'aras HaMachpelah, Yosef does not want to stay in Mitzrayim, Egypt, forever. He says, when Bnei Israel leave, take me with you. And his sons promised. So what's happening in the land of Goshen, which is where the Bnei Israel, the Jewish people, live, in the land of Goshen? What is happening there now? Look what's happening there. Bnei Israel are living in the land of Goshen and having many, many, many children. The place is being taken over by the Jewish people in the land of Goshen. We learn that mothers are giving birth to not 1 baby, not 2 babies, but 6 babies at a time in the land of Goshen. 6 babies at a time. Uh-oh. The land is being taken over by the Jewish people. And this does not make Paro happy. Paro is very upset by this. The Torah tells us that either the old Paro, who used to be very, very nice, became mean, or we learn that a new Paro comes to power. A new king comes to power, and he is very sad. Why is he sad? Because he sees that the land of Mitzrayim will be taken over by the Jewish people, by the Bnei Israel. He wants the land to be for the Egyptians, not for the Bnei Israel. Paro is very sad. But here comes something else very sad for Paro. Paro's magicians come into him and say, Paro, your majesty, we have some very bad news for you. That time in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, magic was really good. Do you recognize the hat that this magician is wearing? Hey, it matches Dena's. Maybe I'm wearing a magician hat because of the Parsha. The magicians came into Paro. Hey, now you guessed why I'm wearing my special hat. Very good. The magicians came into Paro, and the magicians said to Paro, take a look, Paro. Here is my crystal ball. Here is my crystal ball. And we see some very bad news in there for you, Paro. Look at this bad news, Paro. A baby boy is going to be born to the Jewish people, and this baby boy is going to take away your crown. This baby boy will take away your crown. Well, when Paro hears that terrible news, Paro says, what? Not only are the Bnei Israel taking over my land, but now a Jewish baby boy will be born who will take away my crown. I must come up with a plan. I must come up with a plan. I must come up with a plan. A plan. A plan. What am I going to do? And Paro comes up with a very wicked plan, because remember, the Paro now is a wicked Paro. We learn that the Bnei Israel had two very special nurses. They probably had a lot of nurses, but I am going to tell you about two. One nurse, baby nurse, was named Shifra. Here's Shifra. Why was she called Shifra? Because when she held the new baby after the mommy gave birth to the baby, she would go, sha-sha-sha-sha-sha, sha-sha-sha-sha-sha, sha, and she would make the baby beautiful. So they called her Shifra. Oh, there she is. Shifra, there's Shifra. Shifra. Sha-sha-sha. You see her holding the new baby? And Shifra's daughter, and by the way, that was her Mitzri name. I'm going to tell you her Bnei Israel name in just a moment. Shifra had a daughter, and her daughter's name was Pua. And why did they call her Pua in Mitzri language? They called her Pua because she would take the new baby, and she would go poo, 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 to the baby that was crying. And the baby would stop crying when she would hear Pua go poo, 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 poo. So Shifra and Pua were baby nurses to Paro's in Paro's time. And Shifra's Hebrew name, and see if you remember her Hebrew name was Yocheved. Where did you hear the name Yocheved before? You heard the name Yocheved in the wagon, Vayigash, when the Bnei Israel were coming down to live in Mitzrayim. Yocheved was number 70, who was born on the way down to Mitzrayim, And I mentioned to you back then to remember the name Yocheved, because Yocheved was going to grow up to be the mother of none other than Moshe Rabbeinu. So very important for you to know the name Yocheved Shifra. What was Pua's Hebrew name? Pua's Hebrew name was Miriam. And guess who Miriam was? Miriam was the daughter of Yocheved. Miriam was the sister of Moshe. Miriam was the sister of Aharon. And Miriam herself was a Neviah. That means Hashem spoke special words, gave her special messages. So remember those names: Shifra, Yocheved, Pua, Miriam. Shifra, Yocheved, Pua, Miriam. They were baby nurses in Mitzrayim. So here comes Paro's wicked plan. Paro calls in Shifra and Pua. And Paro says, Shifra, Pua, I have a plan for you. You are nurses to the women of Mitzrayim. They are giving birth to 6 babies at a time. But we must have a plan put into place. We must stop this at once, because my magicians have seen in the stars that a baby boy will be born. That will take away my crown, and I must stop that. Stop that at once. Any lady who gives birth to a baby boy, you must take that baby boy and toss him into the river. Get rid of him at once. I don't want any baby boys born. Look at Shifra and Puah's face. Very sad. How could they take a Bnei Israel baby? How could they? They cannot. They cannot do that. They cannot follow the orders of Paro. No way. Here's the babies in the water. Some of them did get thrown into the water. Shifra and Puah could not listen to Paro. These instructions were evil, wicked. Uh-oh, what else does Paro do? Paro does something else. Paro does something else. Paro says, I must stop. I must stop these Bnei Israel. So what does Paro do? Here is Shifra and Yocheved. Of course, Shifra, Yocheved, and Puah, Miriam, are not going to listen to Paro. Because when a mommy gave birth, they quickly took the baby outside to the fields. And Hashem took care of the baby. Look what they did. They laid the baby behind rocks. The new babies were laid behind rocks. And the Medrash says, Hashem fed them. When they were hungry, they sucked on the rock. And the rock came forth with chalav udvash, milk and honey. And the baby sucked from the rocks, milk and honey. And when Paro found this out, Paro called in Shifra and Puah and said, Shifra and Puah, what is happening? I heard baby boys are not being tossed out. I heard baby boys are being born. And Shifra and Puah came up with an excuse and said, the mommies are just giving birth too fast, that we cannot catch them. We cannot catch them. But really, they were hiding the babies so they would not be thrown into the river. Here they are sucking from the rocks. Hashem saved them until they got old enough to run away from Paro. Oh my gosh, what a sad time for Bnei Israel. What a sad time, but it's all a part of Hashem's plan. A plan to become Bnei Israel, and you will see how. Part 2 of Paro's plan was Paro says, I must stop them. I must stop the Bnei Israel from taking over my land. There are just too many people that are Bnei Israel living in my land. So what was Paro's plan? That he would turn them into slaves, into avadim. Raise your hand if you know this. If this is familiar to you, what does Paro do? Paro takes beautiful signs and he decorates them beautifully. And what does the sign say? The sign says, Dear Bnei Israel, would you like a wonderful job working for Paro? Your sweet, lovable Paro. Paro will give you a lot of money. Paro will give you delicious food. Paro will give you great clothing. Paro will give you a great place to live. Come and work for me. And he hung these signs up everywhere in Mitzrayim. And Bnei Israel, they read the signs. And they said, whoa, we want to work for Paro. We want great jobs. We want a lot of money. We want great clothing. We want a good food. We're going to go and get a job with Paro. That's a great idea. Paro's so nice. Is he nice? No, he is not nice at all. Here are the Bnei Israel. The Bnei Israel go and knock at Paro's palace door. Look at that sign that says great jobs, decorated so beautifully. And they knock at the door and the servant comes to the door and says, oh, hi, can I help you? And the Bnei Israel say, yes, we would like a job working for Paro so we can get lots of money, lots of nice clothing, and delicious food. When can we start? And the servant says, oh, please come in. Please come in right away. You can start today. You can start working today. And as soon as the Bnei Israel walk through the door of the palace, boom, boom, the servant says, now you are our slaves. Now you will work harder than ever. Look at those Bnei Israel being beaten and whipped. Get to work. Building the cities of Pisam and Ramses, working so hard, taking the bricks, being whipped. Ouch, ooch, ouch, ooch. What? Help, help, help. You are now our slaves. There is no good food or money or clothing. That was a trick. Now work harder than ever. And Bnei Israel cried, and they cried. Meanwhile, Yocheved goes home, and Miriam is also home after a hard day, helping mommies give birth and hiding the babies. And Yocheved Shifra says to her husband, Amram, she says, Amram, I must speak to you. This is very important. And Miriam happens to be relaxing. And she happens to overhear her parents' conversation. Not that she ever would listen to what her parents are saying, of course not. But this time she was listening because she just happened to be there. She needed to be there. Because Yocheved says to her husband Amram, Amram, we are in big trouble. Bnei Israel are in big trouble. Baby boys are being tossed into the river. Paro is becoming meaner every day. We cannot have any more children. We have a son Aharon. We have a daughter Miriam, and that's it. If we have another child, Paro will take that child and toss that baby boy into the river. We cannot have any more children. And Amram said, I understand. I understand. Yes, I understand. Miriam was listening. And remember, Miriam was a special Neviah. Hashem sent Miriam messages. Hashem spoke to Miriam in messages. And Miriam was a Neviah. And Miriam knew that her parents had to have another child. And you all know why. So Miriam goes up to her mommy and says, Mommy, I understand that things are so serious. I didn't mean to listen to your conversation. But you are also, what if you have a daughter? What if you have a daughter? The daughters are not being tossed out. It's only the sons. But I know a message from Hashem that you and Abba must have another child, because this child is going to grow up to be the leader of the Bnei Israel. You must have another child. You must. And guess what? Yocheved and Amram listened to Miriam. Listen to Miriam. And guess what? Yocheved gave birth to a baby boy. Yocheved gave birth to a baby boy. And by the way, this baby boy, when Yocheved and Amram looked at their son, they said, we are going to call him Tuvia. Tuvia means good from Hashem. But guess what, Tuvia? Things are very dangerous. Paro may find you and toss you into the river. Paro may find you and toss you into the river. And that's why Yocheved took Tuvia and hid him in the closet for 3 months. She fed him in the closet to hide him from Paro. But guess what? Tuvia was born already with a bris. He was very holy, even as a baby boy, as a newborn. His voice was very grown up. Instead of crying, wah, 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 he cried, wah, 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 wah. So he was quite the mature baby. And Tuvia stayed in the closet for 3 months. And after 3 months, he was just getting too big to stay in there. Yocheved did not know what to do. Yocheved did not know what to do. What shall he do? What shall she do? Because things were getting very serious. Paro was sending around soldiers all around Goshen with babies in their arms. And they would go up to tents where they knew babies were being hidden. And they took their baby, their Mitzri baby, and they would give it a smack. And the Mitzri baby would start crying, wah, 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 wah. And when one baby hears one baby cry, the other baby starts to cry. So they would smack the baby, and the hidden baby would start crying. They'd say, get that baby. Take that baby boy and toss him into the river. Things were getting very serious. What is Yocheved going to do? Look what was happening in the land of Goshen. Oh my goodness, and look at that hidden baby. And they grabbed that baby and tossed him into the river. Yocheved said, what shall we do? And Miriam said, this is what we need to do. Miriam brought her mother a basket, and she lined it with tar on the inside and outside. And folks out there, if you ever smell tar, it smells very bad. Next time you pass a street that's being tarred, take a sniff and you will see it smells terrible. But this tar was going to be special tar, because watch and see what happens. Miriam puts tar on the inside. Miriam puts tar on the outside, and she says to her Ima, we are going to put Tuvia into the basket, and we are going to float him down the river. Hashem will save him. Hashem will save him. And Yocheved was so sad to have to do that to her baby boy. And they take Tuvia, and they put him into the basket, and they cover him with a Bnei Israel blanket. And the tar that normally would smell so bad, because Tuvia was on it, Tuvia was such a great person even as a newborn, the tar smelled like Gan Eden, delicious like flowers, beautiful. Miriam and Yocheved go down to the river and take a look at this picture. How sad. They are crying. And Miriam takes Tuvia, and Tuvia's covered up in his blankie. And they say, goodbye, Tuvia, goodbye. And they float him down the river. And Miriam runs after the basket to see what happens to her brother. Miriam runs down with tears in her eyes. And look what happens. The basket gets closer and closer to the palace of Paro. And who is coming out of the palace of Paro? None other than Paro's daughter named Basia. And the Torah tells us her real name was Bisya, but I'm going to call her Basia because everyone calls her Basia. And Basia saw the basket coming down the river, and Miriam was watching on the side. And Basia said, what's inside that basket? Could it be old books? Could it be clothing? What's in that basket? And she tried to reach it, and she tried to stretch her arm to get it. But guess what? Her arm couldn't reach it. It was too far away. So as she stretched her arm, the Medrash tells us that because Basia stretched her arm, she wanted to do it so badly to bring the basket in, because she knew it was going to be something special. By the way, she was going down to the river in the first place to become a Jew. She did not want to be a Mitzri anymore. She did not like what her father Paro was doing. She was going to become a Jew. That's what Basi was doing. And she saw this basket, and she stretched, and the Medrash tells us, because she wanted to do this so badly, Hashem stretched her arm like a rubber band, and she pulled the basket in. What a lesson to all of us. If we stretch to do something good, Hashem will stretch the rest of it. Hashem will help us do something good. If it's a mitzvah or something that we're supposed to do, Hashem will stretch us to be able to do it. Basia stretched her arm and reached the basket and pulled it in. And she said, oh my gosh, this is not clothing. These are not books. There is a baby in here. What? A baby in here. And when she saw the baby, Miriam was standing on the side. When she saw the baby, she said, oh my gosh, it's a Bnei Israel baby. It's a Jewish baby. And she picked up the baby. She knew because it was covered in a blankie from Bnei Israel. And the baby, Miriam was watching so carefully, and the baby looked so sad and started crying, wah, 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 in his deep voice. And we learn that Basia said, baby, you are so sweet. You are a Bnei Israel baby. I am going to name you. And guess what name she named him? I am going to name you Moshe. Because Moshe means I took you out of the water. So she says, baby Moshe, and she's holding baby Moshe. And baby Moshe is crying crying and crying, can't stop crying. And she says, nurses, under order of Princess Basia, I would like you to feed this baby. But guess what? Moshe would not feed from a Mitzri nurse. This is what Moshe did. He closed his mouth. He went, wah, 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 wah. He refused to eat from a Mitzri nurse. Miriam was watching this, and Miriam said to Basia, I will go get a Bnei Israel lady to feed this baby. Basia said, go right ahead. Miriam runs back home to Goshen, and there she says, Ima, you must go to the palace at once. You must go to the palace at once. Guess what? And Yocheved gets on her horse, and she goes all the way down to the palace. And when she gets to the palace, she has a big smile on her face, because look who Basia is holding. None other than Tuvia. And Basia says, Shifra, she knew Shifra. Shifra, can you please take care of this baby and feed this baby? His name is Moshe. Well, of course, Shifra said, I will take care of him. And she takes her baby in her arms, and she says, Moshe, Moshe. And by the way, she knew his name was Tuvia. But we learned that Moshe really had 7 names, and one of them is Tuvia. That's the name that Shifra named him. But Basia named him Moshe. And she takes baby Moshe, and she cuddles him, and she takes care of him for a number of years. In the palace, she comes back and forth every day to feed him and take care of her son. And Basia does not tell Paro who this baby is. Basia does not tell her Abba Paro that this baby boy is a Jewish baby boy, a Bnei Israel baby boy. Suddenly, Paro gets a little suspicious, and Paro is wondering, he says, I wonder if this baby Moshe is the baby that's supposed to take my magicians saw in the stars that is going to take away my crown. I wonder if it's him. And Paro puts Moshe on his lap, and he says, Moshe, and Moshe was about 1.5 years, I'm going to give you a little test to see if you are the baby that's trying to take away my crown. On one side of the table, Paro put his golden crown. On the other side of the table, he put burning hot coals. And he says, okay, baby Moshe, which one are you going to choose? And of course, if Paro would see Moshe choosing his crown, Moshe would be in big trouble, and Moshe would be tossed into the river with all the rest of the baby boys that were being tossed in. Moshe looks at the crown, and Moshe looks at the burning hot coals, and his hand starts to reach for the golden crown. He starts to reach for the golden crown, and as he's reaching for the golden crown, the Medrash says a malach comes and switches Moshe's hand onto the burning hot coals. And Moshe takes his hand on the burning hot coals, and he starts to cry, wah, wah, oh my gosh, ah! His fingers are burning hot, and he tries to cool off his fingers. And how does he cool off his fingers? He puts his fingers into his mouth to cool it off, because he's only a little boy. And when he puts his fingers on his tongue, he actually burns his tongue. That from then on, Moshe could not pronounce things properly. There were certain sounds that Moshe could not say. He could not say like sandwich. He would say like sandwich or puh. Different sounds he could not say because he burnt his tongue on the burning hot coals. And once Paro saw that, he said, oh, good boy. It's good you didn't choose the golden crown. Good boy. Ha, 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 ha. Meanwhile, Moshe grew up in the house of Paro. And here is the picture of Moshe burning his tongue. And Paro is happy that Moshe did not choose the crown. There is Moshe burning his tongue. Ouch! In the meanwhile, Moshe never felt comfortable as a Mitzri. here is Moshe taking a walk outside. And Moshe sees a terrible sight. He sees Bnei Israel being whipped and beaten and hurt. And Moshe is in terrible pain because he sees a terrible sight. He sees a Mitzri soldier hurting a Bnei Israel. Work harder! Work harder! And he's whipping him to the point that the Bnei Israel man is like almost gone. And when Moshe sees this, Moshe is in terrible pain. Moshe cannot watch this. Moshe cannot watch this. And he says, stop, stop, stop beating, stop it. But the soldier does not stop. He keeps hitting the Bnei Israel man to the point of none other than two troublemakers are watching this all happen. One is named Dasan, and one is named Aviram. One is named Dasan, and they were Bnei Israel, but troublemakers. They would tell Paro when things were happening. And suddenly Moshe called out. He got into his Rosh, the special name of Hashem, and he called it out, and the Mitzri soldier fell down, gone. And Dasan and Aviram said, what's going on, Moshe? We saw that happen. We saw what you did. We saw that you got rid of that Mitzri soldier. We saw what you did. Moshe knew that it wasn't safe anymore to be in Mitzrayim anymore. Moshe said he knew that Dasan and Aviram would probably tell Paro what happened. Moshe runs back to his room, and he quickly changes. He changes into Bnei Israel clothing. This is Moshe. This is Moshe as a Mitzri. Take a look. And now Moshe changed into a Bnei Israel. He packs his bags and he says, I am running away from here. I cannot stay here a minute longer. No way. He packs his bags and he runs as fast as he can from the palace. He runs faster, faster, faster away from the palace. And where does Moshe run to? Moshe runs all the way to a place outside of Mitzrayim called Midian. And when he gets to Midian, take a look, where many of our leaders start off. He's standing by a be'er, a well. And the well, the be'er, is right next door to the tent of Yisro. Yisro. There is Moshe standing by the be'er, wondering what's going to happen. What's he going to do? He needs a job. He needs to hide away from Paro. While he's standing by the be'er, by the well, suddenly a lady comes out. And this lady's name is Zipporah. And Moshe is standing by the be'er. And Moshe says, Shalom. And Zipporah says, Shalom. He says, my name is Moshe. And she says, my name is Zipporah, the daughter of Yisro. And Moshe says, oh, very nice. And Zipporah says, where are you going? Where are you coming from? And Moshe says, I'm traveling. Oh, is he really traveling? Oh, boy. And Moshe says, I see that you take care of sheep here. I see you have a lot of sheep here. Could I please have a job and help out and take care of your sheep? And Zipporah says, these are not my sheep. These are my father's sheep. My father, Yisro. These are his sheep. And Moshe says, well, could I speak to your father? Maybe I can work for your father, Yisro. So Zipporah goes inside, and she calls her father out. She says, Abba, we have a guest who's traveling, and he's wondering if he could have a job. And Yisro comes out, and Yisro says, Shalom, my name is Yisro. This is Yisro. And Moshe says, my name is Moshe. It's nice to meet you, Moshe. How can I help you, Moshe? And Moshe says, Yisro, I'm wondering, I'm traveling, and I would like a job. Could I please help you take care of your sheep? I'll try my best to do the best I can. And Yisro says, have you ever taken care of sheep before? And Moshe says, no, I never have. And Yisro says, then how will you do it? And Moshe says, well, I can only tell you, I will try my best. And Yisro says, you've got it. You've got the job. Get to work. So Moshe is very good at taking care of sheep. Moshe works very, very hard at taking care of all of Yisro's sheep. Every day he counts the sheep. Get it? Counts the sheep. He counts Yisro's sheep every single day to make sure not one gets lost. Not one. Every day he counts them, and he counts them, and he makes sure that they're well fed, and he makes sure that they're taken care of, and he makes sure that they go back into their little barn. And one day, Moshe is thinking, you know what? Yisro has a very nice daughter named Zipporah. I'm going to ask permission from Yisro to marry Zipporah. And guess what? Moshe gets married to Zipporah. Look at that beautiful chuppah. Moshe gets married to Zipporah. What a beautiful chasna. What a great looking couple. What a beautiful chuppah. Look at that, Moshe and Zipporah married. And they actually have 2 sons, Gershom. No, they have 2 sons. There they are. And we learn that Moshe is very careful to take care of all of Yisro's sheep. One day, one little sheep is missing, and Moshe is looking all over for that little lamb. And he's calling out everywhere, "Bah, little lamb, where are you?" And he's searching high and low. He's missing one little lamb. And he's looking everywhere in Midian. He cannot find that little lamb, and he is not going to stop till he finds it. And Moshe is looking all over until suddenly he sees a little mountain, a little mountain. And you all know that that mountain is none other than, you know what? Har Sinai. And Moshe climbs up on the mountain. And Moshe sees, on top of the mountain, he sees a little lamb. He says, there you are, little lamb. Bah, bah. And as he's about to pick up the little lamb, suddenly he stops because he sees a very strange sight. He sees a very strange sight on top of the mountain. He sees a bush that is a low bush that is burning, but it's not burning down. Usually a bush that would be burning would burn down to the ground, but not this bush. This bush was on fire, but not burning down. What a strange sight. Suddenly, Moshe heard a voice from the bush. And the voice said, it sounded like a powerful voice. And the voice said, Moshe, Moshe, take off your shoes. The ground you are standing on is holy. Take off your shoes. So guess what Moshe does? Moshe takes off his shoes, just like the voice said. And then the voice said from the bush that was on fire but not burning, called a sneh. The voice said, I am Hashem, the creator of the world. I am the Hashem that created everything. I am the Hashem that put the Bnei Israel into Mitzrayim. And I am the Hashem that is going to take the Bnei Israel out of Mitzrayim. And at this point, Moshe is hiding his eyes because he realizes this is a holy spot. This is holiness. And Moshe is listening. And the voice of Hashem says, I am the Hashem that is going to take them out of Mitzrayim. And you, Moshe, you are going to be the one to go to Paro and tell Paro to let my people go. And what does Moshe say? Moshe says, how could I do that? I can't do that. I can't even speak. Remember, he spoke with a problem because he burnt his lip, his tongue. He says, I can't do that. I cannot do that. I cannot go to Paro. And because he said that, that was a problem. Because if Hashem says do it, we do it. If Hashem says do something, guys out there, we do it. We do it. So Moshe says, I can't speak in front of Paro. I cannot. And Hashem says to Moshe, Moshe, you are going to take your brother Aharon with you, and he will speak on your behalf. But you will go to Paro and tell Paro to let my people go. And Moshe says, but how will Paro believe who Hashem is? How will Paro know who Hashem is? And Hashem says, Moshe, take these 3 signs. Take these 3 signs. And what are the 3 signs? First of all, Moshe, at the bottom of Har Sinai, there is a mateh, a stick that has been put there since the creation of the world, waiting for you, Moshe. And by the way, that stick, many people tried to take it out of the ground, like Adam, Abraham. Many people tried to remove the stick. They could not because it was prepared for Moshe to take out. And Moshe went down, and when he got to the stick, the mateh, he just pulled it up out of the ground. It was waiting for Moshe. And Hashem says to Moshe, Moshe, throw that mateh down and watch what happens. And Paro will know who Hashem is. Sign number 1, throw it down. And Moshe throws it down. And what does the mateh turn into? The mateh turns into a snake. Wow! Moshe picks up the snake and it turns back into a mateh. Paro will know who Hashem is. Moshe, take a cup of water and pour the water out. And Moshe did it. And what came pouring out? None other than dam. What is dam? Blood. Blood came pouring out. Sign number 3, Moshe. Take your hand and put it into your jacket. And take it out. And you will see a white rash called soras. White rash called soras. Put it back into your jacket. And it will turn back into good skin. Take these 3 signs, Moshe, and bring them to Paro, and tell Paro to let my people go. Let my people go. So Moshe took the 3 signs, and then he went to Goshen, and he traveled all the way to Goshen. And when he went to Goshen, he first knocked at the door, and he said, knock, knock. He went all the way to his parents' house. There's his parents. And when his parents opened the door, they are so excited to see Moshe. Moshe! Moshe! Welcome home! Moshe says, I cannot stay. I'm so happy to see you, Abba, Ima, and Miriam. But I must take my brother Aharon, and we must go to the palace, and we must tell Paro to let Hashem's people go. So Aharon joins up with his brother Moshe, and off to the palace they go. And as they get to the palace, they knock at the palace door, and the servant answers the palace door and says, what are you doing back here, Moshe? What are you doing back here? You have caused so much trouble already. What are you doing back here, Moshe? And Moshe says, I'm here with my brother Aharon to tell Paro to let my people go. Hashem's people must leave Mitzrayim, and I must see Paro at once. And the servant starts laughing. I will tell Paro now. The servant goes in and tells Melech Paro, King Paro, you have a special guest here. And the king says, who is it? And the servant says, it's Moshe. Moshe is back. And Moshe says that he would like you to let the Bnei Israel go from being slaves. I will never let them go. No, I will not let them go. Tell that Moshe to come in right away. Moshe goes into the palace. And when Moshe goes into the palace, Paro says, so, you came back here, Moshe. You came back here. I see that you brought your brother Aharon. How dare you come back into this palace? And Moshe says, I am here from my Hashem to tell you, King Paro, let my people go. And Paro says, who is your Hashem anyway? Who is your Hashem anyway? Who is your Hashem? And Moshe says, I will show you. And he takes out a cup of water. And he pours it onto the ground. And the water turns into blood. Then he takes his mateh. And he throws his mateh on the ground. And it turns into a nachash, a snake. Then he takes his hand and he puts it into his jacket, and it turns into tzara'as. And he puts it white rash, and he puts it back in his jacket, and it turns into good skin. And Paro says, not so fast, not so fast. You think those are great tricks from your Hashem. Magicians, come here at once. Magicians. And remember I told you that magic was very good in Mitzrayim at that time. Excellent magic. Magicians, I would like you to make these 3 tricks that Moshe has shown. Pour the cup of water onto the ground. Let's see if you can turn it into blood. And guess what? The magicians could do that. Take your hand and put it into your jacket and turn it into tzara'as, white rash. And the magicians could do it. Take your stick, magician, throw it on the ground, and let's see what happens to your stick. And their stick turns into a snake. But Moshe's snake eats up all the rest of Paro's snakes and then turns back into a mateh. But Paro does not care, because Paro says, my magic is as good as your magic. Now, Moshe, and take your brother Aaron. Get out of my palace now. Out of my palace now. And the Bnei Israel will work harder than ever. They're going to make their own bricks out of clay. Out of my palace. Out, out, out. Get out now. And Moshe and Aaron walk out of the palace. And they know that things are going to get even worse. They are going to be whipped even more. Now they must find their own clay to make their own bricks, to make it all by themselves, being whipped harder. And Moshe and Aaron walk out of the palace, and they say, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And Hashem says to Moshe, do not worry. This is all a part of Hashem's plan for the Bnei Israel, to be the Bnei Israel. Do not worry, because tomorrow Paro is going to learn a gigantic lesson, all a part of my plan. And next week, we will continue with Parshas Va'era, where we will begin the Makos, where Paro will learn who is Hashem. Who is Hashem? And guess what, folks? We learned something very special about the Bnei Israel. The whole time that the Bnei Israel were in Mitzrayim, there were 3 things that they never ever changed. They never changed while they were slaves, even while they were beaten, while they were whipped, even while they were hurt. Number one, they never changed their name from their Hebrew name. They kept their Hebrew name, their Shem Yisrael, their Hebrew name, their Torah name. They never changed it to a Mitzri name. Not only that, they never changed their language. They spoke in Hebrew. They did not change to the Mitzri language. They spoke in the Torah language. And number three, the Bnei Yisrael always dressed as Bnei Yisrael. One could always tell that they were a part of Bnei Yisrael. And this is very important because this is going to be a big part of how we were able to leave Mitzrayim. We did not become one of the Mitzrim. We did not become one of the Egyptians. We remained the people of Hashem, the Bnei Yisrael, and we will continue with Parshas Va'era tomorrow, next week, in Yirtzeh Hashem. What a great Torah time! Wow, we did the whole Parshas Shemos. Everyone wishing you an amazing week filled with Torah, filled with mitzvos, filled with the love of Hashem, and filled with simcha and joy to live and love Hashem's words of Torah. Bye for now. Shalom. Have a great week. Bye. Bye. I hope you like my wizard hat. Woo! Bye-bye. Bye-bye.